It's time for Baby and Toddler Instructions with host Blythe Lipman. Blythe is a nationally renowned infant and toddler expert who has over 30 years' experience helping moms and dads regain their sanity, teaching them how to survive, and giving them the confidence they need to be the best parents ever. From sleeping to crying to potty training to choosing a preschool and so much more. If you're a parent, Baby and Toddler Instructions is the show you've been looking for. Now here's your host, Blythe Lipman.
Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever in the world you might be. Thanks so much for tuning in to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I am your host, Blythe Lipman. And I trust you all had a wonderful weekend honoring your mothers. I know I did. I felt very honored. You know how I love to share what I do with my family, especially because I have a grandson that turned 2 last week. Oh my gosh, it's so quick. Anyway, I have to tell you, for my Mother's Day, my kids took me to a fondue restaurant, and it ended up being a 3-hour meal. I would not suggest fondue if you have a little one, but Alex, my grandson, was great. You know, I got a little antsy here and there. We took turns taking him outside, but for 3 hours, I couldn't believe how long and how great he was. But I want to give you a tip that's really important. If you are going to go out with your little one, make sure you take lots of snacks that they like. And also, I tell parents to pack a special bag with toys that they can only play with when they're out, whether you take them to the grocery store, you know, you have to go to an appointment, because old things seem new. That's why you should also take your toys, put some away, bring them out. Anyway, keep a special bag with things only for when you go out, and that's what my daughter does. Alex loves Matchbox cars. They're easy to take, and yeah, they're really fun to drop off the table too, I know. But anyway, be prepared, and something special will make it easier. So that was my Mother's Day. It was a lot of fun. If you're listening live, today is 5/17/17. Isn't that weird? If you're listening to a podcast, all my shows are Moby friendly and available 24/7 at toginet.com, iTunes, and of course my website, mybestparentingadvice.com. In just a bit, I have a wonderful guest. I'm so excited. Chris Pegula, the creator of Diaper Dude and author of From Dude to Dad in his latest book, Diaper Dude, Surviving Those First 2 Years. He is going to talk about how to survive those years because, you know, dads have a different perspective than moms do. Excuse me. So he'll be with us in just a few minutes. We did have a recall this week, the Combi Shuttle Travel System stroller and car seat combo. The car seat can disengage from the stroller's frame and fall on the floor, posing a fall hazard. Anyway, if you have anything by the Combi, that's COMBI, shuttle travel system, you want to contact them. They'll either send you a repair kit or they may give you a refund. If you go to my website, mybestparentingadvice.com, all the recalls are on there, including this with the 800 numbers and the website. So please don't try to fix something yourself. I know I've been a broken record for 9 years telling you not to fix things yourself, even though it may look easy, but we want to keep our little ones safe. And even though you may think you're fixing it right, that's why the companies recall things. So on that note, I wanted to share this article I found. Could there possibly be a particular kind of pizza that can induce labor in a pregnant woman? That's what this Charlotte, North Carolina restaurant claims. This pizza is called the Inducer. Hawthorne's Pizza says their buffalo wing pizza seems to have helped get some very pregnant women a little relief. And I didn't think it would work, to be honest. I didn't think I would have a baby that night, said this one mom-to-be who tried the pizza after her friends told her it might help. So she ate this pizza, which is buffalo wing pizza. 4 hours later, she gave birth to her little baby, Madeline, who was 10 days early. And her friends told her it might help claim the same type of buffalo wing pizza that made them go into labor, too. There were 3 people. You know what? This really made me laugh. It sounds crazy, but who knows? If you've been lugging around a baby for 9 months, you'll try anything, that last part. You know, and especially your last weeks of pregnancy. And who can resist eating a great pizza anyway? So I thought that was pretty interesting. So the It's called Hawthorne's Pizza. If you live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and you're pregnant, hey, go try it. Who knows? Also, if you listen each week, you know how I love to share tips from my books. Help My Baby Came Without Instructions, More Help, and Help My Toddler Came Without Instructions. So this week, I'm going to share just a couple tips from Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's called Daddy Loves Me, The Manly Art of Baby Care. And I thought it would be perfect since we're having Chris on to talk about how dads take care of babies. But here are a couple of tips from my own book. And it's really pretty interesting because dads take care of babies a little differently than moms. First of all, they don't seem to be as stressed. They're so much calmer. And the other thing I found is they're great swaddlers. For some reason, the dads I've dealt with can swaddle babies like nothing. I don't know why, but you know what? It's pretty awesome to see them swaddle a baby and the swaddle doesn't come undone. So anyway, first tip, when you change your baby's diaper, make sure you have everything you need before you change the diaper. The wipes, the ointment if you're going to use it, and always have an extra diaper because I have to tell you, and I know Chris is going to agree when we talk, because there's a chapter in his book about especially little boys. Do not put your face down there. You will get a shower. And sometimes they will get it all over the new dry diaper. So have an extra diaper with you when you change the diaper if you're a dad. Also, when you're changing baby's diaper, give them something to hold if they're old enough to hold something because the hands go right down there. And if it's a poopy diaper, well, forget it. You're going to have a lot more to clean up than you thought. Also, another tip from my chapter is be silly. You know what? The sillier, the better. Babies love it when you sing. Babies love it when you pick them up and dance around and have fun with them. So that's my chapter about Daddy Loves Me, which has a lot more tips, the manly art of baby care from my point of view. And if I have things that Chris doesn't agree with, well, we will hear about that too because he's an expert. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about him. Let's see where the paper is. There's so much about Chris. Anyway, he is the creator of Diaper Dude, America's most high-profile line of hip gear for cool dads. You should go to his site, diaperdude.com. You have to see these bags. I mean, it is the coolest thing, and I can't wait for him to tell us how all this started. Anyway, really cool gear for dads. He lives with his wife and 3 children in L.A. Frank Meyer, who is a journalist, author, digital content producer at Fender Musical Instruments, and the proud single father of a teenage girl, helped Chris write this book, the newest book, Diaper Dude, the ultimate dad's guide to surviving those first 2 years. And I have to tell you, I love this book. I went from cover to cover, and I usually don't turn down things, but there was just so much in there. I especially love the parenting hacks. They are just things that I never thought of. You know, and I have a lot of things, a lot of my own tips, but we'll have to talk about that too. So I want to say good morning to Chris. We're going to have a commercial break in a few minutes, but I want to welcome him before our break. So Chris, thanks for being on the show this morning. How are you?
I am well, Blythe. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, you know, this is the truth. I usually don't turn down pages in books, but there are so many pages in here that the bookmarks kept falling out, and I thought, oh, forget it. You know what? I love this book. There's so many great tips in here, and, you know, like I said before, dads are a little different with babies than moms are. And sometimes we get nervous, and you know what, especially when you try to throw your baby up in the air and catch him or her, which I don't want to see, or some of the other things you feel really comfortable doing. But yeah, the book is great. I was looking this morning at your other book too. This is really fun. So before the break, I think we have a few minutes. Tell my listeners, why did you do this? How did you do this?
Well, you know, it's so funny. This is the last thing I thought I'd be doing, I must admit, if anyone ever told me when I was younger that I'd be designing and manufacturing diaper bags for dads. I actually, I'm the 5th of 6 children, and I went to school in New York at NYU and studied acting, and that's what brought me out to Los Angeles, which I was pursuing my career here and auditioning and working in some jobs here. But when my wife and I got married and she got pregnant, she came home one day with I kid you not, at least a dozen diaper bags that were so feminine and flowery and girly that I took one look at them and asked which one was mine. She said, take your pick. And I said, no way, I'm not carrying one of these bags. So that really started the concept of thinking of where's there a bag for me in this? And there wasn't anything on the market that reflected a category for dads. So that was the inspiration. And I kind of just bit the bullet and came up with a concept, and one thing led to the other, and before I knew it, I had a prototype and started shopping it around locally in Los Angeles to stores and got some great feedback, and the business sort of went from there. So it was selfishly for my own purpose and needs, but thankfully 14 years later, we're still in business and created a category to help support dads and have them feel connected from, as early as pregnancy on.
I love your bags because you're so right. I remember when my daughter was pregnant, we were looking around and she kept saying, yeah, Tony's never going to carry this. And look, this looks like a woman. And it's interesting because we did look at your bags and I think they bought one, but it's true. You don't want to carry around a pink foo-foo bag. Men don't want to do that.
Exactly. And it's great because, it's all about, from my perspective with the parenting is, doing tag teaming and being a partner as much as you can. And the role of dads has changed so much today that it's really cool to have something as simple as a bag to make you feel like you're a part of this experience. Because even when my wife was doing her whole shopping in the beginning, and she went with her mom for her registry, and it was everything geared towards mom, which is not horrible because obviously mom is the one pregnant going through the whole experience. But again, you want to include dad so he feels like there's a part for him, and that's what that void that we filled, and it's really cool, and I'm really excited and proud that we're bringing dads more connected.
You should be proud because I've seen so many dads walking around with a Target bag with a diaper and the wipes and like, wait a minute, you don't want to be dragging that Target bag around. You're just as important as mom is. Anyway, we're gonna have a commercial break in just a few seconds, and when we come back, I have a lot of questions for you about your books and being a dad, and I love having dads on the show because it is different. So stay tuned. I'm here with Chris Pegula, the Diaper Dude. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Did you know that the average teenager drinks twice as much soda as milk? Since 1983, sugar consumption in the U.S. is up 28%. Why is that? There are several reasons, but one of the most common is soft drinks. 20-ounce beverages have become the norm, and it's not surprising to find that 43% of our sugar comes from drinks. Sugar is blamed for poor nutritional diets. USDA data shows that people whose diets are high in added sugar eat less calcium, fiber, iron, protein, and many other important nutrients. Fat-free foods are also a culprit. Since sugar is fat-free, many people tend to think it's okay to eat as much as they want. Remember that just because a food is fat-free does not mean that it's calorie-free also. For the Fitness Minute, I'm Annette Hammond.
It's words you never heard.
Believe it or not, there are times when even I can't think of the right word. The inability to think of a word is called lethologica. Texas Monthly Magazine recently came out with some colorful homespun sayings. Old as dirt and common as cornbread in the Lone Star State. Did you hear about the Texan that could strut sitting down? But he was all hat and no cattle, which means very boastful, but with nothing about which to boast. On top of that, he don't know a widget from a wangdoodle or a diddly squat. His wife was a mighty strong woman. She'd charge hell with a bucket of ice water. She was always telling folks that he was so tight, he could squeeze a nickel till the buffalo screamed. She also said he was famous for calling the hogs all night. Or snoring.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my new app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I'm Blythe Lipman, your host, and I am here with my wonderful guest today, Chris Pegula. He is the author of From Dude to Dad, book about pregnancy, and his latest book, Diaper Dude, Surviving Those First 2 Years. And we have a lot to talk about because those first 2 years are something else. How did you know you were going to be a writer?
I didn't. I'm excited that I actually have this opportunity. But I did have this story inside of me for the first book, From Dude to Dad, and I was excited to finally get that, published. And once the first book came to fruition and was published, it kind of became second nature to start the second one. So now I'm excited. I feel like I can just pop out some more books.
I know, isn't it great? Because I never thought I'd be a writer either. I always liked to write in school, but I thought, if you told me I was going to live out west, in the Wild West, and write books, I would have said you were out of your mind.
Exactly.
But here I am, and here we are. So let me ask you, what's your biggest struggle for you as a new dad that you didn't anticipate?
I think the biggest struggle was, for me, I'm a high energy person, and I think that I was always excited to get the kids involved in activities with myself, and even as a baby, distracting them and playing and doing all that fun stuff. And I think it was difficult for my wife to have that energy be so intense and high end when she was like, please just be calm so the baby will be calm, And I think that was a great tip that she taught me, because as much as I'm excited and wanting to be connected with my child and infant, there is something to say about the energy in the household and how kids pick up on that energy and really react to it. So it was sort of a sobering experience to feel like, oh no, I have to change who I am. But it was actually really helpful because, when it came time to, putting down our child for a nap and all, you just want to really calm them. It's like with my teenagers now when they're about to get ready for bed, I'm like, no TV time, no computer time or phone time, an hour beforehand at least, so that you can just chill out and calm yourselves. Yes,
and the interesting thing too is that we, do as I say, not as I do, because I read that all the time. Don't look at your computer before bed. And it's really true. It's such a good tip to give to your kids, no matter how old they are, whether they're teenagers, because let's face it, technology is here to stay, and everybody has something. It's in the kindergarten rooms, it's in the preschools, the computers are in preschool rooms, but you do have to have the rules. So I bet your wife, did you get up with the babies at night because of your energy? Are you not a sleeper?
Oh, no. I mean, I love to sleep, but I definitely was up, and we did a lot of tag teaming when she would feed, and then I would change the diaper and, rock our son back to sleep, or daughter. I think that was really important because, the next day, if I, eventually when I was able to go back to work, she's going to have to deal with everything through the day as well. So being able to assist as much as possible made sense so she can get her rest and be strong enough, especially since she was breastfeeding.
That's so important to do it together because, everybody's tired. The thing is, everybody's tired. If you don't get up, you're tired from work. And if you do get up, you're just tired, especially those first couple of years. So I do have to say, not to interrupt our conversation, the book, the parenting hacks you have in here are great. Starting in the beginning, when it says when you clean those first few tar-like poops, use a little coconut or almond oil, which gets it off easier because it sticks and it's hard to clean the baby and they don't like their legs up because they're brand new. That's the meconium the first couple weeks that doesn't look like a real poop and it's all over the place. And what a brilliant hack.
I wish I had that hack back in the day. It's just that I came to it afterwards and when I was going through this book. So it is really helpful. And it's actually, just bringing up the meconium, it's such a freaky looking experience that if you're not aware of what's going on, you will be really scared, thinking, what is this alien-like substance coming out of my child? So,
well, you will be, exactly. You'll be calling the pediatrician. If they don't tell you, for those of you that don't know what that is, when the baby is first born, you know what? They swallow a lot of mucus and things from mom. So when they first poop, the first week, maybe two, it looks like it's tar. And it's black, and we all heard if you see black, it's blood, and everybody goes running. Well, it's not. That's normal. But you're right. You don't know what it is, and if the nurses in the hospital didn't tell you, you really are freaking out.
And even if they tell you, you forget because you're so overwhelmed by the whole experience. So it's good to be reminded of it for sure. Can
you remember pulling out of the hospital? I've had so many parents tell me they look in the back seat and say, "Are they really going to make us go home alone?"
Oh. It was actually even before that, the first day or the morning that my wife delivered, and then that night when they were like, okay, have a good evening, and our son slept in our room, and I was like, wait, what? Really? I mean, thankfully I had all these nurses outside to help us, but that was one interesting note that I probably would have done differently if we were to have another child, is allow our son or daughter to sleep in the nursery so that you could recuperate. We were so freaked out about, our child being switched or taken, and it's, I guess you hear about it, but if you're watching one too many Lifetime movies, you feel like it's your reality. But it's really important, especially for mom, to get her sleep so that she can be, prepared and really strong enough for taking care of your child. So that's one thing that I, would certainly do moving forward if we were to have more children.
That's so important, and I have said that so many times, but it's interesting because some of the hospitals here in Arizona don't have nurseries anymore. And
my gosh.
And I don't understand, because if the mom has a C-section, she can just about move, and to have to go over to the isolette and take the baby out, and it's tough. So if your hospital does have a nursery, listen to Chris. Let them sleep in the nursery. The nurses are great. Nobody's going to take them, and every bit of sleep you can get, even though your adrenaline is pumping, it's going to help when you leave.
And especially the nurses are so amazing and so loving, and they just, who doesn't love babies? So to have these doting women and men taking care of your child, especially having that assistance, is so wonderful. And I remember the first night our oldest was born, and sleeping in that little plastic bin at an angle. And every few minutes I'd be waking up to make sure he was breathing, because I was paranoid that, he was choking on whatever mucus was left over from being inside his mom's stomach. And it was just a stressful evening. And dads need their sleep as well, because you want to be up and ready to take on the next day helping out.
Oh, absolutely. You have to go home and then return everything to Babies R Us that you don't need when you walk in.
Exactly.
Is that the truth? You did so many returns. It's interesting.
Boy. I know. Well, and especially today, there's so many. It's so wild to look at what is available on the market today in terms of products for parents compared to what they were when our children were born. The advances in technology have just given so many amazing products, some of which I feel may be overkill, but still the convenience and ease that parents have it's pretty amazing.
So, also being in retail and having your bags along with your books, what do you think are the most important things to have? Even looking back, because I can tell you that some of the things will never get old. There's certain things you absolutely need, no matter how many new things they come up with. What do you think are the important things?
Well, I love having, especially for dads too, having a baby carrier that you can feel connected and have your son or daughter right on your chest and walk around the house with. It's such an amazing experience, but also allows you to, walk around and be able to do other things as well, having your child with you instead of holding them, cradling them, because it gets exhausting. So that is one thing that I definitely think is a must-have. It's so important for bonding and just for sanity's sake. And having, obviously, a great monitor. Today, the monitors are unbelievable, how you can see everything crystal clear at night, I mean, we relied on just the walkie-talkie version, which we often had it cross with our neighbors, and we would hear things from our neighbors when our child was a baby, and it was the craziest thing. So, obviously, I think monitors are a must-have as well. But baby, the baby chairs or infant chairs that I don't know if I'm calling it the correct thing, forgive me, but the seats for them to just like bounce up and down, the bouncy chairs.
Right, the bouncy chairs.
Yeah, I mean, they're just so great to have because, that self-stimulation for your infant to be able to have, little mobiles hanging above and hanging out as well and feeling, confident and secure in that chair while you're still around is in the room and able to do other activities is definitely a really cool thing.
I'll tell you what, if they didn't have the bouncy chair, many moms would not be taking showers because you put them in the bouncy chair.
True.
Yeah, you put them.
Absolutely.
And you talked about the monitors, which is amazing because it's funny. I remember going over to see if my kids were breathing, and I would put my hand on their back. But the monitors today, not only are they video, but you can hear everything. You can hear your baby breathing.
I know. It's wild.
You don't have to go running in every 5 minutes and putting your hand, if your baby isn't in the room with you. Oh, my goodness, I'm sorry. My phone is beeping, and I didn't turn it off. There we go.
Well, even more intense than monitors now, they have baby wearable technology on little one pieces that can monitor the breathing and the heartbeat and apparently, help to prevent SIDS. And, that I think is interesting, a little overkill for my sanity because I remember my youngest was a preemie. And he was born in the NICU for 3.5 weeks, and he was connected to all these monitors. And every time that alarm would go off, my heart would sink. And when it was time for him to come home, they actually asked if we wanted to bring home a similar type of monitor. And I did want to have it because I felt so reliant upon it. But then once we got home and a few nights went by and I didn't have to listen to that ringing anymore because we said no, we didn't want it, it really boosted my confidence. So it's interesting to see how something that you think can be so helpful can kind of almost make you more paranoid to a certain degree. So it's interesting. Sure. Yeah.
For sure.
I think that for many, for years, children have survived without wearable technology. And I don't know. I don't want to, knock it because I think it's really fascinating and it's a progress. But
well, they're going to get to me.
Type of parent you are.
If we don't stop talking, here comes the music.
I need you. Oh, I need you.
We'll be right back with more help. For help, my baby came without instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Baby love, my baby love, I need you. Oh, I need you.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors, all quilters, just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us because we know that quilting changes everything.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network, radio with a cutting edge.
It's words you never heard.
Did Scotch tape originate in Scotland? Nope. The popular gift wrapping tape was actually developed right here in the United States. In 1926, the Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company, 3M, was being a bit rapacious, trying to save a little scratch or money, and started using a cheaper adhesive on their sticky tape. A Detroit automaker ordered some of this newer, cheaper tape to use for spray painting auto bodies. But the automaker complained because the tape was Scotch, a politically incorrect word that meant cheap or stingy. While the tape didn't have the adhesion to satisfy the automaker, it was hardly a Gifu jet. That's an unnecessary thing. It had many other uses, as we all know. So the tape was kept in production and the name Scotch just stuck.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I'm here with my wonderful guest, Chris Pegula. He is the creator of Diaper Dude, the author of From Dude to Dad, and his latest book, Diaper Dude. And I have to tell you, he's got these hacks in here that I wish I had thought of them or knew them. Another parenting hack. This was ingenious, Chris. If you can't find your bib during the feeding, it says that take a self-adhesive hook and attach it to the back of the baby's high chair and hang the bib on it. Because so many times you go, where are the bibs? I mean, this was brilliant. I love this. I love all the hacks in here.
Yeah, that one definitely saved a mess for many experiences when we were feeding our children. So.
Oh yeah. So I want to ask you, how did you and your wife find a pediatrician you liked? Did you check them out before you had your kids? Talk a little bit about finding the right pediatrician, because there's so many.
Absolutely. I think that one thing that was helpful is my wife's sister had already had 2 children. So we were able to, sort of repeat what she had. We had sort of a cheat sheet, if you will, because she had already investigated different doctors and pediatricians. But we did do our due diligence as well. And I think it's really important for dads to be a part of that process as well, because the last thing you want to do is, meet the pediatrician at the last minute before, when your child is born, because you want to have a comfortable relationship with them. So you want to be able to be prepared and to ask them, questions even as simple as like, what are your policies with after hours and how can we get a hold of you and things like that, because God knows there's a lot of times you end up as a parent feeling freaked out and scared, and you're going to end up calling the doctor in the middle of the night, and you just want to make sure that you have someone that you feel comfortable with and trust.
Exactly, because you're going to be with them for 17, 18 years, and if it doesn't feel like it's a fit, you know what, move on, because there's tons of doctors, and you have to feel comfortable. So many times I've had parents say to me, well, I ask a question and I feel stupid. Your doctor should never make you feel stupid. You know what? And there's no stupid question as far as I'm concerned. No silly question. We're all new at this when we start. And, you have to ask the questions. Ask your friends.
Yeah, and absolutely. You need to feel comfortable, confident, and secure in the choice that it's like, you're getting into a relationship, like you said, for the next 17 years with this individual. So you want to make sure that you both connect in a way that you feel like you can trust and feel totally secure in what, that relationship is going to be. So your first choice, the first doctor you meet isn't the one that you have to go with. And definitely ask friends, if there's friends or your baby group that you belong to, or get advice from the hospital that you're delivering at. There's definitely ways that you can research and find the right fit for you.
Can you ask other dads, when you're having a beer, hey, who's your pediatrician?
Yeah. Unfortunately for myself, I was the first out of our friends to have children, so I was the guinea pig for all of them.
Hey, but lucky them, you could help them after that.
Right.
So, from a dad's point of view, since your book is surviving the first 2 years, what do you do as a dad, what do you do when your child has a tantrum?
Oh my gosh. Tantrums, I think, are the most challenging thing. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind and to not do is to react at the same energy as the child. Oftentimes you try to, we think, at least I do, and I learned from these mistakes, that you have to kind of overpower them with your voice to try to get them to understand you. But when you are calm, collected, and cool, that energy diffuses the child's tantrum. And I think that you've just got to follow through with consequences of either, say, if you're going to a grocery store and the child has a tantrum because they want a toy, preparation is very important to tell them ahead of time. When we go into the supermarket, we're not buying any toys today. We can look. If they have a hard time, and you've got to be prepared to leave. And sometimes you won't be able to achieve your goals of, the tasks that you set out to do if you're bringing your toddler with you. But you'll be a better parent if you're able to follow through with your consequences and leave and then try to do it another time. And, it's those little lessons that eventually will catch on.
Those are great tips because, sometimes you can't avoid it. Sometimes you have to go to the grocery store when it's not the most opportune time. So,
absolutely.
Being prepared, at least trying to be prepared, you can't always be prepared. You do the best you can.
Exactly. And, I have to say, talking about advances in technology, today with delivery services, if you can't actually achieve your task, yes, it's a little more expensive, but at least if you're in desperate need to get the items that you can't follow through with your task, you can always order them online. We have in Los Angeles a place that delivers food when we're in a pinch, and it's a lifesaver.
It's interesting, too, because just your groceries, I know my daughter, I'm in Arizona, and my daughter orders her groceries every week from the grocery store. She picks them up, but all she does is drive up, give them the number, and they put all the groceries in her trunk.
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, you're able to get so much done today with convenience and ease, and it is pretty fascinating.
Also, I just came upon something, too, when you're in a pinch and you can't cook, and, especially when your kids are in activities. I don't know if you have this in LA. It's called DoorDash. Do you have DoorDash?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
DoorDash
absolutely.
is amazing, and even if you have a baby and you just don't feel like cooking and you put your baby to sleep and both of you are starving, if you go online to DoorDash.com and you put in your zip code and your address, it will tell you all the restaurants that deliver near you. And the delivery charge is like $3. Right. And it's just, what? I'm sorry I found it because a lot of times I just don't want to make my dinner.
It's true. And I got to say, though, a word of advice, as if you're using that and your children are getting older and they discover it, it could be dangerous.
It could be, but it's not to take the place of sitting down as a family when you eat, or even when your little one's in a high chair, and you all sit down together, although they won't know you got takeout if they're still eating baby food. So you're safe then.
Well, and that's the wonderful thing that you said, that, I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the things I loved and still love is being able to sit down together as a family. And, as my children are getting older, we find that it's sometimes difficult with having a 17-year-old who's, very busy in activities, athletic activities and after school activities. So, any opportunity that we get to be able to hang together and have, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, whatever meal it is really important. And I would encourage everyone to just continue that ritual because, as we were saying offline, how time flies by, those moments you want to savor.
Oh, you do. I'm so happy you said that because if you started from the beginning, there's no right or wrong if you like to have your meal after your baby is asleep, if you have a young baby. But I know a lot of parents, once the kids are after 6 months old and they're in a high chair, they do eat their meals, and that baby's in the high chair, maybe with Cheerios or whatever it is. So you start from the beginning and set up your rituals. What about nighttime rituals?
Nighttime rituals, I loved being able to connect and bond with our children, reading to them at night and doing a little, song before they went to sleep, or putting them in their crib and feeding them, changing their diaper. It's just that sort of last bond of the day that really just feels so amazing in your heart, and just to feel connected to your child. I think it's so important. So if you can, even to this day, my daughter is 15, and I still find myself getting into the habit of telling stories, from when I was a a child, and she loves that. It's our still our bonding experience, and as long as she'll let me tell her stories, I'm excited for it, because I know pretty soon it's going to be, see you later, Dad. I'm out with my friends and I'm doing my own stuff.
But I have to tell you what, it will come back, because as your kids get older, you'll be sitting at the table when they're much older, and they will go, remember when? And remember when you put me to bed that night, Dad, and we were silly, or whatever it is, because, our children watch us all the time. And
absolutely. And I feel, it's interesting, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that is exactly, I think, why I'm able to be successful in my business and starting this company, is because I remember my dad, who was a very successful businessman, but very involved father as well. And being the fifth of 6 children, that's a lot of kids. And I think that you can easily, and being the fifth there, by the time it got to me, I still felt like I was just as important as the oldest. And I think that really resonated for me and was a great influence. So you definitely leave a path for your children by your involvement as a parent.
Oh, exactly. And it starts at the beginning. Because your book is surviving the first 2 years, you'll see as your child gets closer to 2, they will do things the same way you do them. And sometimes you have to be careful with your mouth, what comes out, because they will repeat every bad word you say. And, and it's really difficult not to laugh when they say some word, but you go, oh my gosh, I can't say that anymore, because it slips out. But they are constantly watching us from the beginning, and they've done studies with little babies that they've shown. You can see online, if you frown at the baby, they'll cry. If you smile at the baby, they smile. And that's how they learn, and that's how we learn. And it's funny, because I know as a kid, sometimes you'll say to your parent, I'm never going to do what you do, or I'm never going to say what you say. And you will find yourself saying the same thing that your parents said to you that you didn't like when you were a teenager. It's like, oh my God, I'm my mother.
That is so funny. That is one thing I talk about in my book, because that's something that I always thought for myself, like, well, I'm not going to be like my dad because I didn't agree with what he was doing, or my mom when I was a kid. And I find myself doing the same or even more intense than they were. So I think it's unavoidable, and you learn when you become the parent when you're in that position. I still hear my children now, as they're getting older, they often say, oh, Dad, I'm going to do this different than you because you're being too light or too easy on this. And I'm thinking, okay, good. I'm glad you're recognizing that. So hopefully you'll take that in and listen to me next time.
And you realize your parents were a little more intelligent than you actually thought. But we're going to have another break, and when we come back from the commercial break, I'm going to talk to Chris about relationships. How do you keep your relationship alive, and how do you meet your wife's needs and your own needs when you have a little one? I'm also going to ask Chris his favorite parenting tip, because I'm sure he has a lot. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these. If you're ready for a big change in your work, your career, your happiness, your life, it's time for the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com. Marla believes that with the right mindset, anything is possible. Join us as successful life coach Marla Tabaka inspires you and her clients to explore, discover, and live your dreams by developing what she calls the $1 Million Mindset. Marla will inspire you to take action on your dreams and reveal secrets to success that will help you realize your own unique power. Tune into the $1 Million Mindset for heartwarming stories with Marla Tabaka. Learn tips and tricks to building a successful business and unlock the secrets to creating a happier, more balanced life through abundant thinking and attraction power. For more information on the $1 Million Mindset, go to our website, marlatabaka.com. That's MarlaTabaka.com. It's the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network. Radio with a cutting edge.
It's words you never heard.
well known in medical practices that patients tend to lie about their health habits. They lie about how much they smoke, understate how much they drink or eat, and overstate how much they exercise. What's another word for those little white lies we like to tell in the examination room? Taradiddles. Doctors have a rule of thumb. Whatever the patient says they're drinking, smoking, or eating, multiply it by 2. But it's hard to come clean about your habits when you know you're in for some jobation from the doctor. That's criticism we don't want to hear. If physicians want us to be honest with them, I suggest they try being a little less judgmental and use a little suaviloquence. That's soothing, encouraging talk.
It's Merging Neighborhood.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back. This show goes so quickly. I can't believe we're up to the last part of the show. So one more hack out of Chris's book, Diaper Dude, The Ultimate Dad's Guide to Surviving the First 2 Years. And you know, the parent hacks in here are so great. Everybody should get this book if you have a child under the age of 5. There's so many great things in here. I don't think it just has to be 2. But anyway, it says kids love to play with doors, but they might lock themselves out, in or out of a room. Isn't that the truth? And that's happened. It's scary. Anyway, if you stretch a rubber band across one doorknob to the other, it will prevent the door from actually locking. Brilliant. So brilliant. I'm going to remember that when my grandson's here because he goes in the bathroom sometimes and says peekaboo and then forget it. I'm going to don't lock the door.
I know, that is scary. I've actually had experiences where my kids locked themselves in and I had to like climb through the window to get out because
gosh.
It's frightening. So you learn the hard way.
You do. So Diaper Dude, where can my listeners get your book? This book and your other book and your dad and your wonderful bags.
Fortunately, the books are available at any bookstores from Amazon to Barnes & Noble. So even your local bookstores should have them if you have a small local bookstore. And then our products are available pretty much at any baby retailers that you shop at, from Babies R Us, Target, Bye Bye Baby, or Nordstrom's, or on our website at diaperdude.com where you can see the full collection.
And they make great gifts. So if you're not pregnant, you know, and you want to buy a great shower gift or baby gift, they all make great gifts. So quickly, tell me your favorite parenting tip, and then we'll talk about relationships.
Absolutely. You know, I think one of the things that was a lifesaver for me is, and I learned this from a friend here in Los Angeles, when our son was sleeping, we'd wake up in the morning to a room, unfortunately, decorated in not so pleasant substances. So he would take his diaper off and all hell would break loose. So getting a pajama, footy pajamas, and cutting off the feet of the pajamas and putting them on backwards so that the zipper is in the back of your child, they can't take off and get to their diaper. And that saved us tremendously because that was the one thing I hated was the cleanup duty. And it just made life so much easier. If your little one is very curious, that'll save you from the mess in the morning.
And finger painting is not what you want in the crib.
No.
That's brilliant. Oh, I love that. That's brilliant. So talk a little bit about relationship. How do you keep it fresh? You know, it's so hard to have date night. It slips so quickly.
It does. You know, I think one of the things that I really encourage is the foundation being strong between you and your partner when you are parenting. And even before you are actually delivering birth, it's working on that connection and making sure that you set that time aside, even if it comes to the point of like right before going to bed and checking in for the last 10 minutes of the day or in the first thing in the morning. For my wife and I, we actually made it a habit to bring our child with us and continue our date nights whenever she was able to get back into going out after having our son. And going out to dinner made it more normal for our son to be a part of us because he was so calm, cool, and collected as an infant that we didn't want to hold ourselves down into our home. We wanted to feel like we can still continue our experience. So if you try to continue your rituals and being really open, speaking-wise, and honest with one another to express different feelings that are going on is really important. Communication is key.
And when you're so tired, though, you talk about going out. It's important to go out. Girlfriend time is important. It's important to go out with your guy friends. You did all that before you had a baby. But sometimes if you just can't get out of the house, you can have date night at home. Hey, order takeout, get a movie, whatever works. But, so many parents, because you're so busy, you don't put it on the calendar. Put it on the calendar. You know what? You put your baby's appointments on there. You put your kids', events on there. Write yourself in so that you're going to have date night whenever it is. And try to do it at least once a month, I think.
Absolutely. And, this makes me think of when you get on an airplane and they tell you to, in an emergency situation, you put the mask on yourself and then your child. And it's kind of like that concept is the same for your relationship. You really need to take care of yourself and your partner and the relationship. So if you treat that as, important, it'll reflect on the whole family and your experience of raising your child. And it'll be a great example later on for your children to see that you're still continuing that tradition of connecting with your partner.
Oh, exactly. What do? You talk a little bit about postpartum depression.
Yeah.
Can you say something about that?
I think that it's really important to be aware of it prior to your partner going through delivery so that you can get some key tips from your doctor and to even address it with your pediatrician and your wife's OBGYN ahead of time. And that's why I really feel like dads need to be a part of these visits early on during pregnancy so that they can get knowledge of how to help their partner cope with the depression and to look for signs that it could be more intense than the normal highs and lows that a woman may experience after giving birth. It's so important for men to validate their partner's experience and to be a shoulder for them to lean on. And if anything, not to be a problem solver, where as a man, I think for me, it's second nature to just want to take care and say, here's what you should do, as opposed to validating her experience. Sometimes, our wives don't want a solution. They just want to be heard. And you'd be surprised how something as simple as that can go a long way.
And it's not, I just have to say, it's not just when you have children. We all want to be validated, but especially, as moms, our hormones are all over the place when you first have a baby. And yes, you're going to cry. And yes, you're going to get frustrated and happy. And, the emotions are all over. And, for dad to understand that, or at least validate and be there, even something as simple as getting up in the morning and giving each other a hug.
Right.
Exactly. It's a nice way to start the day, and you're together. What do you do though if you're not on the same page? If you think, one of you thinks you should do it one way, one of you thinks you should do it the other way with your children.
That's one of the dangers, I think, of parenting that can become a problem later on, because you're setting yourself up for good cop, bad cop, and your children, like we were saying early on, are really, really knowledgeable, and they learn quickly, and they'll be able to play one against the other. If you set up that dynamic. So it's really important to realize if you don't agree on something, don't let on in front of your child that you're in disagreement. Take the conversation outside of the room and try to come to a solution where you're both at least somewhat on the same page, because otherwise you're going to have your child get really clever and smart in playing one against the other, and that's just kind of setting up a recipe for disaster.
And I'm not laughing at what you're saying, but I can just remember, because as they get older, especially when there's car keys involved, or or there's curfews involved.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll hear mom said, and mom didn't really say. So
100%. And, that's why actually even with our children now, when my daughter will ask me something or my son, I'll say, you know what, ask me when your mom is in the room because I want to make sure we're on the same page. So I'm not answering until your mom is with me. And that's just a safe bet.
You know what? That's perfect. That's perfect to be in the room because they will, as they get older, that's what they do. And sometimes you're tired and you go, well, okay, go ahead. Don't ever just go, okay, if you're tired. You have to
because they will hold on to that and continue to ask you when you're tired.
They will. They know. They know the end of the day. They know as they get older. And it's tough too if you work outside the home or if you both work and you come home from work, even your baby, it seems like your baby will be the crankiest when you're the tiredest.
Exactly.
And it's tough. You don't want to both cry together. I mean, if you're both sitting there crying, and I've seen it happen so many times, but it's tough. You know what? We all get tired. We all work hard. Anyway, so many great tips, so many wonderful parenting hacks. Everybody should have this book because someday you'll be a grandparent too, and you can share all this. Chris, thank you so much for being on my show. I would love to have you come back when you do your next
book. I would love that.
What's your next
book?
Thank
you so much.
Do you have another book coming up?
Well, it's hard to not want to write about teenagers because that is just exactly where I'm at right now, and I think that perhaps will be the next. So,
well, go for it. Anyway, have a wonderful day. If you're in Arizona, let me know. I'll meet you in person. And thanks for being on the show. And you have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was so much fun. I love my guests. I love doing my show. If you would like to be a guest on the show, please contact me via my website, My Best Parenting Advice. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm all over. I love what I do. You can always message me, too, on FaceTime. And you should listen to all the other great shows on TogiNet. There are a ton of them, all kinds of wonderful topics. And, if you ever have a question, I do in-home video and telephone consults. So if you're in Arizona near me, I will come to your home if you have any kind of non-medical issues, biting, potty training, your baby's not sleeping, your toddler's not sleeping. Anyway, give me a call or contact me via my website. My office is 480-510-1453. And as you know, if you listen, I love to end my show with a little humor. And keeping that sense of humor when you're a parent is a must because children do the funniest things. So here's texting between mom and friend. Mom number 1 says, I'm done. I'm selling him on eBay. I can't do this anymore. Mom number 2 says, don't be crazy. You made him, so he has to go on Etsy. Before I became a parent, I swore my kids would never have a tantrum in public. Well, let's all take a minute to laugh about this together. Boy, those tantrums can be tough, can't they? And finally, we all know that moment when you go to check on your sleeping baby and his eyes ping open, so you drop to the floor as fast as you can and roll out of the room like a ninja. How many times have you done that? Boy, can I remember crawling out of the room when I wanted to check on Lindsay or Andrew, and they were still awake. And as soon as they hear you, if they see you, it's all over. So thanks for tuning in today. Have a great rest of your week. Take some time with your little one each day. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.